So now we're going to start Mem Vav and Beis, but first we'll read Rabbi Yochanan on the bottom of Mem Vav Amud Aleph. Rabbi Yochanan Shlosha Krisos B'Shlomim Lama. Why does the Torah in the Parsha of Shlomim repeat Kares not once, not twice, but three times? And we're talking about a Tameh who eats Basar Shlomim. So Gemara says Achas leklal, the Achas leprat. So Achas leklal seems to indicate that a tummy who eats any kodesh is chayiv kares, but achas leprat seems to indicate that it's only in a case of shlomim, not in a general case for all korbanos. And the achas in the third one is lidvarim she'enam ne'echolim. And again, this is the Tanakama sheet against Reb Shimon. So if you have, for example, wood or lavona or ktores, things that are not edible, nevertheless, according to Chachamim, if you're tamei and you eat them, then you're chayiv kares. So therefore, I need a third pasuk to refer and expand the application of kares to a case where the tamei eats something that's not edible. But the Rabbi Shimon mishum tuma. Rabbi Shimon disagrees, and he holds that no, it's not edible. This is not called an achila, and therefore, if you eat it, even though it's mizbeach is kodesh mizbeach, nevertheless you're not chayiv mishum tumah. So lasuye mai. So now we want to know, what do we need that third pasuk for? Rabbi Yochanan's pasuk. We wanted to justify it by saying, well, we needed to establish that even something is not edible and a tummy eats it, since it's kadosh, therefore he's chayiv kares. But that doesn't work out according to Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon says if he eats something that's not edible, like the ketores or the lavona and the likes, the eitzim, he's not chayiv. Is lasuye chatos pnimios. Now, just shooting from the hip, I would certainly say, sorry. I had it on silent, but that's not enough, right? I would certainly say that if, in a case of a chatas chitzona, the halacha is that you chayiv kares if you eat a betuma, then certainly how much more so in a chatas primis. But no, Salka Daikman would have said, "Ho the Omer Reb Shimon." Let's use the logic of Reb Shimon to explain the Chacham who argue Reb Shimon. But Reb Shimon says, "Kol she'eno al mizbeach hachitzon kishlomim ein chayav alav mishum pigul." Right, pigul is written in the parish of Shlomim. Anything that's not similar to Shlomim, for example, let's say it's only a nitar, not a matir, is excluded from pigul. And Reb Shimon takes that to an extreme in a sense that he says, therefore, there's no pigul in a chatas pnimis because it's not like Shlomim where everything is done on the mizbeach hachitzon. So therefore, based on Reb Shimon's logic, the Chachamim, even though they disagree with Reb Shimon, will say that mishum tumei nami lo l'chayim. Maybe there would not be an Isa Kares if a Tomei ate from a Chatas Primis. Kamash Malan, no. Even in the case of a Chatas Primis, despite the fact that, as Reb Shimon points out, there's no Pigul, but nevertheless, there is a Chiv Kares of Tomei. Numi, Rabbi Shimon, Mechayev es Shedarko Lecho. Honestly, I'm not sure what the word numi means. 1 second. I had a problem when I read this also. I don't know. Anyway, let's analyze Rabbi Shimon's Shita that you're only chayav as a tameh if you eat something that is edible. However, something like wood, lavona, or ktores, which is not edible, then the tameh who eats it is not chayav. Itma. Now, there are two zugos here. There's a zug called Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. They were like, you know, Rebbe and Talmud, a binding relationship. And then there's Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina. They also go together hand in hand. But in this case, Chad Mehai Zuga, or Zuza, V'chad Mehai Zuza, I think Zuza means Zuga. So you had one from one pair, let's say Rabbi Yochanan from that pair, and Rabbi Elazar from the other pair. Again, we don't know which names. uh, are picked out, but one from each one of these zugas got together with a dissenting opinion. And Chadam, according to that dissenting opinion, machlokas betumas basar. When do we have machlokas between Reb Shimon and Tanakam? That's only with regard to the basar. In other words, the basar itself contracted tumah, which means, that means that a tar is not allowed to eat tameh. One second, let me just think something out here. The basar became tameh. He says here, let me. I remember I read this and I couldn't make sense out of it. Maybe we'll try it again. One who violates this prohibition intentionally, in other words, his body is tameh, and he goes and he eats, let's say, eitzim, so he's not chayev. Is that the rule that an edible kodesh is included in tumah is derived from a superfluous word written in the verse pertaining to eating kodesh that is itself tameh. And that's the word v'abasar. There is no such inclusive phrase in the verses pertaining to eating kodesh while one's body is tameh. Therefore, one who eats inedible hegdesh while he's tameh does not incur malchus. So again, it's all technical. I mean, the question is what the pasuk is talking about. Whether you have a ribui in the psukim. So the ribui in the psukim to tell me that the tameh is not chayev is in the case of a basar, where the basar contracted tumah, but the gavra was tahar. If he was tameh, and he ate basar kodesh and something that's not edible, would not be chayev. No, to me it sounds counterintuitive that if he's tameh and he eats something, I don't know. I don't see any logic to it. I think it's just a matter of how you darshan the psukim. But Chad Omar, kemachlokas bezu kach machlokas bezu, which means that if he's tameh, which is tumas haguf, and he ate something that's not edible, Reb Shimon would say he's poten, the Chacham would say he's chayav. My timer. So let's see if the Gemara offers any logic. I doubt it. Kaven de Karina Beva Basa Shayiga Bechol Tome, Karina Beva Tumaso Olav. Meaning it doesn't make any difference whether it's the basar is tame or whether or not vitum also it doesn't make any difference whether you are Tomei or whether the Basar is Tomei. Rav Yomi Masni Hoch. So whatever we learned until now is a reflection of the way that Rav Yomi passed it on. Rav Kahana Masni Hoch, but Rav Kahana has a different tradition. Chad mihai zuga v'chad mihai bizuga. Okay, that's the same. Aseifa. Okay, let's see what aseifa means. Aseifa here means Reb Shimon, I think. Let's see if that works out. Chad Omar machlokas betumas haguf. Avol betumas bosa divrei kol loke. So why would Reb Shimon, or when would Reb Shimon be makil if it's Eino Roy Lachil? That's only in a case of Tumas Haguf. But in the case of Tumas Basar, even Reb Shimon would agree that Yechayiv Kares. And again, the same explanation that we gave before. The Chad Omer, according to another opinion, Machlokas Bezu, Machlokas Bezu. So again, it doesn't matter according to those who are Mekil, or for that matter, those who are Machir, whether or not it was Tumas Haguf or Tumas Habasar. And to the same extent, there's Machlokas in the case of Tumas Habasar, so too there's Machlokas in the case of Tumas Haguf. And Reb Shimon is going to say that there's no Malchus in either of those two cases, because the wood, incense, is not edible. Omar Rava Mistabra, it makes sense. Kimandi Omar Machloks Bezu, Kach Machloks Bezu. My time of why does Rava think that the logic shifts according to the shita that would consistently apply this machlokes? Kevon to lo karina beva tumaso olav in nichrisa lo karina beva bosa sheyiga b'chol tame lo yeachel. In other words, Reb Shimon's logic is that if the ochel is not ochel, meaning it's not edible, and therefore the Isur of Tuma doesn't apply, and lo karin and bev abosa shayiga b'chol tami lo yachel. Says Rav, the same logic should apply if the gavra is tame b'tumas haguf, and the lavono, whatever it is tahar, but it's not edible. So Gemara immediately asks for Omar Mar ve'habasar l'rabos eitzim u'lavono. But we had the extra word v'habasar, and that told us that a tummy is chayiv even if he eats something that's not edible, like the lavona or eitzim. So how can you now tell me that according to Chachami Bichayev, and according to Rav Shimon to be Potter, how could Rav Shimon say he's Potter when they have a ribuy of abasal or rabos eitzim u'levona, even though they're not edible? So it's mamish, it's like an explicit posuk against Rav Shimon. And the Gemara answers l'psula bi'alma. So the pasuk is only referring to objects that are tamei, and they're inedible, and they're lakrova, and it's only telling me psul. As far as the Isser with the Chiv Malchus is concerned, the Torah is not saying anything. And this leads us to the Mishnah here on Daf Mem Vav Hamid Beis. Let's see if we can get through the Mishnah. This Mishnah is a very famous Mishnah in Zevachim, and it addresses the question, what kavanos, what thoughts should go through the mind of the Kohen when he's doing the four avodos. Number one, l'shem shisha dvarim hazevach nizvach l'shem zevach. Now, what does it mean l'shem zevach? I mean, what was the other possibility over here? So Rashi was also bothered by this. He says, L'shem Zevach means if it's an Ola for the sake of an Ola, if it's a Shlom for the sake of Shlom. Then we have L'shem Zoveach, right? He should have in mind that the Avod is being done for that person whose carbon it is. L'shem Hashem, make sure to have Kavanah, this is all for God. I'm thinking to myself, as opposed to Avodas Kochavim. L'shem Ishim, very difficult. L'shem Isha means for the purpose of the carbon to be brought on the fire of the Mizbeach. L'shem Zoveach. Now, wait a minute. We did L'shem Zoveach already. L'shem Reach, right? The pasuk says that the carbon should be a Reach Nichoach Hashem. So you should have in mind the Kohen when he's doing the avodah, it should be a Reach Nichoach. But then he has L'shem Nichoach. So we don't know the difference between L'shem Reach and L'shem Nichoach. I mean, they're basically identical. Let me just see if he has anything here. All right, he says here that we'll have to wait patiently till the Gemara. Okay. Next, Vachatas Voshan L'shem Chet. Right, these are the two categories of Karbanos specifically for a Chet. You have to have in mind L'shem Chet. And I think you have to have in mind the specific Chet that he violated. Let's see if that's right. Just 1 second. One should intend that the carbon should atone for a specific sin for which it was brought. So let's say he violated one sin, call it chelev, and the Kohen had in mind that he's bringing this carbon on his behalf because he ate dam, which he didn't eat, then the carbon is possible. Oh, Rabbi Yossi, af mishalo hoyo libo l'shem echad mikol elu kosher. So what is Rabbi Yossi adding to the Tanakama here? Apparently the Tanakama would hold that if the Kohen is in violation of any of the 6 kavanas, the carbon is possible. Comes along Rabbi Yossi, says, no, the carbon is still kosher. Shu Tanai Bezdin. Forget about what he's thinking. The subjective thoughts that go through the mind of the Kohen that's bringing the avodah. Let's talk about the objective intention of the carbon as it's established by Bezdin. She'ena machshava oleches el achar oved. When it comes to a machshava poseles, So what does it mean, Ayla Achara Ove? We just finished saying that it's a Tanai Bezdin. Rabbi Yossi holds that since the absence of intent fulfills the requirements of intent, which is stumble lishma, let's say the Bezdin enacted a rule that all those performing the avodah should not enunciate the purpose of the karma. This was instituted so that they did not err and state the wrong purpose. For example, declaring it all to be a shlamim. So the intent is determined by the one performing the avodah, not by the bala karma. Okay, so this leads us to the Gemara here. Maybe we'll just push it another few minutes. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav, Ola l'shem Ola, Afuki l'shem Shlomim Delo, Ishim l'shem Ishim, Lafuke Kabava Delo. I think we'll go over this tomorrow. My eyes are just okay. And thank you very much. And tomorrow's Friday, so hopefully 9:30 works for you. Okay, Mitzvah.